Is the story of Amityville, aka the Amityville Horror House. All credit is given to TonySpera.com for the content, aka NESPR.com, the Warrens' original website. Without further ado, let's jump right into this. Ronald Defeo Jr. On November 13, 1974, in the small town of Amityville, New York, Ronald Defeo burst into Harry's bar and screamed that his parents had been shot and killed. Police discovered the bodies of 6 members of the Defeo family. The father, mother, and 4 of the 5 Defeo children were found, face down, shot in the back of their heads. Ronald claimed that he wasn't home during the murders and had only discovered the bodies of his parents prior to arriving at Harry's bar. After police officers had found a gun case for a .35 caliber Marlin rifle in Ronald's room, Defeo confessed. After a lengthy trial, Ronald Defeo was found guilty of the heinous murders in his family. He was sentenced to six consecutive life sentences, but there never has been a solid explanation of how one person acting alone could take the lives of 6 family members in the dead of the night, 3:15 a.m., and no one heard the shots being fired. Family. On December 18, 1975, the Lutz family moved into the Defeo home. Though it had only been 13 months since the Defeo murders had occurred, George and Kathleen Lutz thought the Dutch Colonial was a lovely home and a steal for $80,000, never expecting they'd have to leave it all behind 28 days later. A Catholic priest arrived while the Lutz family was unpacking to bless the family home. As the priest made his way upstairs to the 2nd floor, entering the bedroom which had formerly belonged to Mark and John Defeo, he began sprinkling holy water, at which point an unseen voice told the priest, "Get out," which he hastily did. The priest did not tell the Lutz family about the voice, but he did warn them, do not use the upstairs room as a bedroom, and do not let anyone sleep in there. Although ominous, the Lutz family abided by the words of the priest and turned the room into a sewing room. From the very first night that they moved in, the family claimed that they felt strange sensations. Within the days, the family's personality had drastically changed. Arguments ensued. George was plagued by a constant chill and spent all his time feeding the fireplace. George also noticed a change in his grooming habits, and his and Kathy's health declined drastically. The Lutz daughter began spending all her time in her room, playing with an imaginary friend she describes as red-eyed pig called Jody, who could transform not only shape but size, at times being larger than the house. Jody also claimed she could not be seen by anyone unless she wanted them to. Mysterious foul odors would emanate from different locations of the house. Black stains appeared on the toilets of the ceramic fixtures. Kathy was touched by an unseen force, and a green gelatin substance would appear throughout the house. Hundreds of flies appeared in the sewing room despite it being the dead of winter. George would wake up nightly at 3:15 a.m., which coincided with the time the police felt the Defeos were murdered. George also awoke one night to witness his wife transform into a 90-year-old hag, and the next night she began levitating over the bed. The Lutz family on numerous occasions reached out to contact the Catholic priest, only to find the phones were cut out whenever they would try to call. After failing to get the priest to return, the family took matters into their own hands. Armed with a crucifix, they walked throughout the house reciting the Lord's Prayer. A chorus of voices erupted in response, asking them, "Will you stop?" The final night was reported to be the worst. Banging and rappings as loud as marching bands emanated throughout the house, furniture being moved by its own accord, and the children being terrorized. After 28 days in the Defeo home, the family claimed they could take no more. They grabbed only a few belongings and fled the house, taking shelter at Kathy Lutz's mother's house in nearby Babylon. The Warrens investigate. 20 days after the Lutz fled, paranormal investigators Ed&LorraineWarren were called in by Marvin Scott, a news reporter with Channel 5 New York News who had covered the Amityville story and worked on a prior investigation with the Warrens. A team of reporters, investigators, and parapsychologists were assembled by Ed Warren and met at the home at 112 Ocean Avenue. The Lutz family, however, refused to re-enter the home during the investigation. During the investigation, Ed was physically pushed to the floor while using some religious provocation in the basement. Lorraine was also overwhelmed by the sense of a demonic presence and was plagued by her psychic impressions of the Defeo family's bodies laid along the floor covered in white sheets and a sense of physically being pushed back. The research team also captured an image of a spirit that appeared as a little boy, peering from the second floor. The land was also found to be used by John Ketchum. John Ketchum was a practicing black magician and had a cottage on the land prior to the construction of the Dutch colonial in 1924. John requested that his remains be buried on that property, and they remain there till this day. The Chinook Indians also at one time had an enclosure on this land that was used to house the sick and the mad. Those in the enclosure were left to die. The Warrens believed that the suffering there had left the property with a very negative energy and a dark history, and that such a negative history was a magnet for demonic spirits and the preternatural. The Warrens believed these energies directly impacted the lives of both the Defeos and the Lutzes. The Warrens retrieved a handful of the Lutzes' earthly possessions and deed for the property. The Lutzes sold the rest of their belongings and relocated to California. The Ocean Avenue home that was once purchased for $80,000 in 1975 by the Lutz family sold for over $950,000 in 2010 and is again on the market. There have been no further reports of activity from recent residents. So that's the story of the Amityville Horror House. Want more paranormal? Check out TonySparrow.com, aka NESPR.com, the Warrens' original website, and stay tuned to my channel for more content to come very soon. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and once again, stay tuned for more content to come. Have a blessed day, and watch out. Because you never know when another case like Amityville will come around. And could it happen to you? God only knows. Thank you.